Kyle, you know what else comes out this week? Is Saints Row 3 Remastered.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Friday.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So it's coming out on Epic Game Store consoles, not Switch, but that does have like the original Saints Row 3. It's a port that doesn't run too great and all that stuff. But playing through the opening of Saints Row 3 again is very wild. It reminds you how far we've come since 2011, which on my mind, it's like, that wasn't that long ago. Then you go back and play this thing, it's like, that skydiving sequence is, woo, like the remaster, like you can see from trailers and stuff.
Is that
like,
a good woo or a bad woo?
I think it's a little bit of a rough woo is how I would describe that one.
Because my reaction was like, oh, I forget how like insane this game is right off the bat. Like technically sort of, aged poorly, but like, it's like I'm jumping off a plane in like the first 5 minutes of this game. And it's like that part was kind of like, whoa, this is crazier than I remember somehow.
Hanson, I mean, you were on that trip with me. That must have been one of your first cover story trips, right?
That was the third Game Informer cover story I did, yeah. So we jumped in Andrew Reiner's car and drove down to Champaign, Illinois to visit Volition, which is like, what a cool studio. Like, that trip made me appreciate Volition so much more and their bizarre history. But, yeah.
With me and Jeff Cork in the backseat trying to get the GameCube with the screen to work, trying to play Zelda 2, which is the way to do that.
Right. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in the front seat trying to listen to podcasts where Reiner's blasting his band on the car stereo. Yep. So it's a pretty cool setup overall.
The whole CD on loop. Yep. Definitely remember that.
Yeah. What do you remember from that trip? What do you remember about them showing you and stuff?
Well, I think we were both nervous because it was your third trip. You were still pretty new, and it was my first time writing a cover story. And so I just remember just taking so many notes and just trying to, take in everything they were giving us.
Yeah.
And they were so big on we want to go super duper over the top and have these giant cutscene moments. And they kind of front loaded it, if I remember right, because it starts with the big bank robbery thing, right? Is that the very first thing?
That is, yeah. I think for the cover story trip, I remember they showed us the plane sequence, like jumping out of the plane.
Yes.
And then that was one of the early cover designs too, but yeah.
Yeah, and I even remember back then thinking that okay, I appreciate they're just basically going for balls out action, just dumb, almost like South Park, almost like a parody of an action movie.
Right.
But I remember thinking the controls and stuff, it's very much not on rails, but it's okay, you're falling and you can press this button to turn and this button to turn, and visually it's hitting that tone they're going for, but it's not it wasn't revolutionary from a gameplay perspective.
Right.
But I think it worked. I think they front loaded it with the bank robbery and the plane thing, but I think that game really shined with just the open world stuff in general. And the upgrades, I remember being weird as hell. You could make yourself invincible by the end of that game, basically.
Yeah. Can you tell us the story?
You also turned into a toilet, didn't you?
Yeah, it's great. That was the part where my dad walked in while I was playing it. I was home for the holidays, and I was running around as a toilet with an AK, and he just sighed and just went to the bathroom.
And he said, "So proud of my son."
Wait, went to the bathroom on the screen?
Smoked a cigarette, and what's that?
Went to the bathroom on the screen?
He pooped on his own TV.
Oh my God. It's very confusing for the elderly. I understand. It's all over the place.
Elderly.
Kyle, has anything stand out to you about the writing or the tone or the jokes in Saints Row 3 at this point?
Well, I mean, the start screen, one of the options you can play is Horde mode.
Right.
Spelled WHORED. And I was kind of oh, okay. This is what we're in for. Okay. All right. But and there are those moments where it kind of it's rough in that way where it's I don't know. I don't think this would fly anymore. But I will say in terms of characterization, I'm surprised revisiting it, how enjoyable the characters are. I got to that sequence where you're singing Sublime while you're driving around in the car and stuff, and I let it play all through. I stopped in front of the mission to let them finish singing it, and there are moments like that where the voice acting feels very casual and well done that I'm impressed with even now all these years later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. God, go ahead, Dan.
Remember when they sent out the giant purple dildo bat?
It's pretty cool.
They sent it to it was a big floppy dildo bat they sent.
Yeah, you think they would do that in 2020 for Saints Row 5 or whatever?
They've remastered it a few times. I haven't seen nary a dildo.
How come that wasn't there when I was at the office? What happened to it?
I remember thinking it was weird because they actually didn't send one to us. And I remember seeing everyone from Destructoid and IGN or whatever with their fun dildo pictures, and we're sitting there dildoless.
As we often are.
Do you remember, Hanson? We are the reason that the fart in a jar made it into that game.
You say we.
I get me.
All right, tell the
I
story.
was trying not to put it all on me. I was trying to give us all credit for the fart in a jar.
All right, here we go. The Dan Show. Take it away, Dan.
I said we. We were a team.
All right, what did we do?
I asked a question. We asked a question saying, "Oh, you guys are getting so wacky here. What's something that was just like, oh, this is fun, but it's too wacky, even for Saints Row the Third?" And they're like, "Oh, we thought it'd be a grenade type, where it was a fart in a jar, and you would fart in a jar and throw it, and be stinky, and everyone would throw up." And I remember like just sitting there and being like, "No, you have to put that in. Please put that in. That's a great idea." And I think Steve Yarrow, was that the creative director?
Yeah.
He tweeted out afterwards. He was like, "Oh yeah, hashtag fart in a jar. Thank Game Informer for that being in the game."
That's nice. Normally, I hate that kind of thing when journalists are like, "You know what your game needs," but I guess I'll let the fart in a jar slide. Because I remember they were explaining it like, it makes no sense. You can't see anything. Like, there's no visual impact here.
You can do stink lines.
Well, yeah, but look, it's a grounded world of Saints Row. But anyways, it's fun to have that back, and hopefully it rekindles something. They can make something new, because I would love to visit that studio again and find out what is happening these days in there. I know like Mike Koulas, the president, left a while ago. I know Steve Jarros left. He's at Valve now. So it's a weird studio. I want to know what they're cranking away on.
Yeah, I think ever since like Agents of Mayhem, right? They've been like everyone's been like, "What's going on over there?" Because Agents of Mayhem was just a mess.
Don't tell that to Kyle. We got #1 Agents of Mayhem defender over here with Kyle Hillary.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, dude, that's like the best game they've ever made.
Guess what score he gave it, Dan, at GameInformer.com.
On the Game Informer scale, you gave Agents of Mayhem a flat 8.
I think that's correct.
That's right.
Way to go.
That sounds right. Okay.
The ultimate agent of Mayhem.
The joke that you go for, Hanson, often whenever Agents of Mayhem weirdly comes up a lot, I feel like, is that like I am like this huge Defender fan, and it's like I think I liked it like 10% more than most, which would put me on the higher end of the scale. I think people were a little hard on that game because it wasn't Saints Row, but there's like some good action in there that people sort of didn't really embrace. So
yeah.
Hey, does Jeff Marchiafava always podcast from the inside of a wedding dress?
If you enjoyed this clip from the MinnMax Show podcast, we think you'll like the full show too. You can find it by subscribing to MinnMax's YouTube channel or on your favorite podcast app. Any help spreading the word to keep our whole indie operation here running is appreciated. We're here for and because of the wonderful MinnMax community, so you're welcome to join.